So just want you to join me in welcoming Jacob and Leidy Paul from Colombia. They're missionaries from Colombia. Yeah. So glad that they're taking the trip they're kind of touring around a bit within Ontario and connecting with some churches and their home church. There's connections here. They're part of the BIC family as well. They run a reunion church down in Colombia, but they're going to mention all that stuff as we talk. So just glad to have you with us. Why don't you just take a moment to introduce yourselves. Who are you? What do you do for those who don't know you? Yeah.
I'll start. Don't worry. We're going to try and make it brief because there's a lot to get in. And if we don't get everything in and you want to know more, well, we're going to have time to eat. So please ask us whatever you want. My name's Jacob Paul. I was born and raised in London, Ontario. Grew up in a Christian home my whole life. But my life really started to connect more when I went to a missions trip to Colombia, actually to Armenia. There had been an earthquake in '99, and I went with a group from our church in 2000 to help a church down there and got connected with people, stayed friends with these people for like a long time. I stayed in what I would say now is my brother. It was like down there. It's like I stayed in his house down there and then went back to visit them. In 2008, I went down for a friend was getting married. And so my other friend was like, well, I got married the year before. Come stay with us. And there was something in my heart that when I was in Colombia, that first bit for a couple weeks, something in my heart was like, this feels like home. I was like, ooh, maybe I just love to travel. Maybe it's the travel bug that's caught me. And so after university, I lived in Vietnam for a year and I liked it, but I was like, no, I don't want to live here. So when I went back to Colombia, I started feeling that same feeling. I was like, okay, God, sorry, but my faith is really tiny. I was like, if I'm going to stay here, change my life, give up my friends, my family, my job to move here, you need to do it something physically. So my friends invited me out the next morning and for a coffee, and they're like, we really feel God saying, we want you to come stay and live with us for at least a year and a half and help with the youth group here, get involved, learn Spanish, because I didn't speak a lick. I was like, when I first went down, nothing. So that was hard because I'm someone who's pretty social, so I couldn't communicate, and everyone's like, oh, you're so timid. I'm like, no, I just can't talk. So that was something for me that was a challenge, but I just remember God saying, go. And I trusted him and I went and I met Leidy down there a couple years later, and took a while, but eventually I broke her down and we got married. And so that's a little bit about me. And now my lovely wife will introduce herself.
Hi, good morning. I'm Leidy. I was raised and born in Armenia, Quindío, Colombia. I come from a Catholic background. I turned to Jesus when I was 16 years old, I think, if I recall well. My background, I studied system engineering. That was my profession. Then later on the path, I met Jake. As he mentioned, we got married. And now we are the founders, and I'm the director of a project called El Nido, which means the nest. And it's a project that works with teen moms. That's what we do right now. We work with teen moms. We empower them. We walk with them through all the challenges that they have to face. We are there to help them to achieve goals and dreams, to flourish. And so El Nido, which I already said, it means the nest. That's why we call it El Nido, because in a nest, there is life, there is care, there's love, protection. But at the same time, then the birds will just drop the little one, and hopefully they will fly. So that's our hope. We work towards breaking cycles of inequality and stop repeating pregnancies in those girls. So we advocates. ¿Cómo se dice?
Advocates.
Advocates.
We advocate for them.
Advocate for them. Yeah.
And how did it get started? How did the ministry get started?
Yeah.
I'll do the first part. You can do the second part. So in about 2015, we started doing a book study. We had started an English Bible study for college and career age people. in our home. But we decided to do a book study, so we're like, okay, we'll do the book in Spanish because it was really hard for some of these people to read a whole book in English, and then we'll talk in Spanish. And the book is Crazy Love by Francis Chan. I'm sure many of you know it or have read it. And there was a part in it that really just challenged us because it was talking about like heroes of the faith, like about Hebrews 11, and he said like, well, these are my heroes that I have in my life that have encouraged me to keep going. And it was people that did like huge things, like huge works, like NGOs, nonprofits, to someone who just adopted a child. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. It's just something. And these people have impacted my life. And so we started thinking like, we felt God like pushing us like, why not do something else? Like, why not look to see what else you can do? And we're like, but what? It was like, we were all involved in the youth group. We were busy. We were recently married. And so we're like, okay, like, let's just pray and see where God takes us. And so during that time, I was working in a small foundation that had like an after-school program to teach English, to teach values in a very impoverished neighborhood, very dangerous neighborhood, like in our city. And one of the girls became pregnant. We later found out she had been raped. We didn't know at the time. But she was pregnant, and the lady was like, who was in charge of the program, was desperate to try and help her and said like, I can't find anything. And so she said like, I'm going to talk to Leidy, because Leidy had also helped out. At that time she was working a full-time job, but she was also involved sometimes in dropping in and helping out with the kids, so they knew her.
Oh, it's my time. So I was like, I'm an only child, so I think only childs are a little selfish. I don't know if you agree with that. So like, I don't know. I think I don't know if I can do that. What should I do? I don't have kids. I never have the experience of, So a person said to me like, are you a good listener? And I said like, oh yeah, I can do that. So she said like, maybe this girl just needs someone who will listen to her, and that will be lovely. While you wait for God to just say what it's that thing that you feel like he's moving you towards. So I was like, yeah. So I started meeting with the girl, inviting her for like a drink or something, learning with her. It was the first time I saw an ultrasound, and that beautiful experience for those who has kids. So I was really excited and really overwhelmed by all the challenges that they have to face, the fear, the stigma, the social pressure, the lack of resources that she had, and all the worries that she has. So it's funny, but I'm a system engineer, so I have no idea about health and how you will deliver a baby in that moment. Like, no, that wasn't my thing. So I would just research with her in like safety, I don't know, browsers. I don't know how to say
like
that.
A process?
No,
Dile en español.
que busque en lugares confiables, en fuentes confiables.
To look like for good sources, like actual reliable sources.
Yeah, thank you. So I learned with her how breastfeed and how the delivery will look like through watching videos online. That's how we learned. And then I remember one Sunday she called me and she said like, Leidy, I think I'm ready. And I was like, do you have this? I already took notes of what will happen. And she said, yes, but my family don't believe me. So I said, just take a cab. I will pay for that. We will meet you at the hospital. I wait for her there. She came in Colombia. Just recently, you can start going with the mom to the delivery room. Like, this is just something that's recently happening. So that time she went by herself. When they brought me that baby, I just started crying. I remember that day, and I think that day we delivered the baby, which is El Nido. I was like, I came back home and I said, Jake, I know what we're gonna do. I know what we're supposed to do. I think we should be working with teenagers. Like, this must be the answer. So here we are, 8 years later.
And then just to cap that up, after that happened, we're like, okay, so we're going to do this. So we started brainstorming, came up with the name, came up with like what we were thinking of doing, all that stuff. But then it was like, okay, well, where are we going to find the girls? Like, And so, and then,
I have funny thoughts.
yeah,
I was like, I should go to those neighbors and just
Knock on the door.
And then I was like, no, that
Do you know
would
anybody
sound
that's
really
pregnant?
weird. Like, is there any pregnant teenager here? Like, I was like, no, God, I don't think that's the answer.
Yeah. So another girl, 13 at the time, became pregnant. That's our reality. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then from the same neighborhood, she wasn't in the program, but from the same neighborhood. So Leidy was like, yeah, I can do this. I can take her on. And so her first appointment down at the health center, the lady went with her. And so the head nurse was like, oh, are you the mother? And I was like, no, like, I'm not the mother.
I look too young.
Yeah. I was like, and then, like, as she would tell it, she was like, she just felt God saying, just say what you're doing. And so Leidy said,
I'm the director of El Nido.
we had just come up with the name.
We just come up with the name. And it was just the two of us. So, of course, I was the director. It was no one else. El Nido didn't have a choice by that time. So she was like, oh, really? And I said, yeah. And we want to walk with these teen moms. I want to help them. And she said, like, oh, I have like hundreds of those girls. And there's so much challenges with them. Do you like to work with them? And I was like, yeah, I would love. And she said, okay, I will send you the database. And I was like, what? They give me the database of a health center. I was like, oh man, I drove all the way home crying, and crying. Oh God, you're so good. I didn't know what I was getting into, but I was just so excited about that.
And they lent us a room, and so that's where we started, in a room that they were lending. And so we cart a projector and like materials down there and meet with the girls. And that's how it was born. That's kind of how it all started. And the church plant, we can talk about later, but that's a whole other issue, like how it came about. It's a long story too. Yep. But we planted the church 3 years ago in the building we're in now. That's El Nido. So it's also, they've kind of just come together, and it's been a beautiful thing to see what God's doing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So sorry, we talk too much. You can just
we
say
do.
like...
We do. Just cut us off.
Yeah, we got time, actually. We're looking good. Yeah. So things got started, and then we're interested too. What's it like then, ministering to teens in Colombia in your context?
It's great and exhausting. But no, we should actually, that's where I think we'll give you some statistics, because some people are numbers people. So it's good for you guys to see kind of the reality of the situation of the population we're working with. I'm going to have to try and turn around and read them, because I don't know them all off by heart. So it's the second leading cause of death for girls aged 15 to 19. That's teen pregnancy. And that's worldwide. That's not just in Colombia. That's all over the world. And in Colombia, 1 in 5 mothers are adolescents, and 1 in 3 mothers between the ages of 10 and 14 are expecting for the second time. That's also why we work with girls. We only take girls on their first pregnancy, because we're trying to break that cycle. That's something we're trying to do, because after they've had the second one, it's very hard to get them to go back to school, to get them back in the workforce. It's very difficult. And teenagers do not have children with other teenagers. According to the data reported by Danny, that's like Statistics Canada in Colombia. Only 0.8% of teenagers have relationships with other teenagers. The remaining 99.2% have children with adults. And we're talking an average of 6 to 15 years older. We've had some 50-year-olds that are the dads in our program as well. And then the other last two that are important, if you become a mother before the age of 15, by the age of 20, you have an 86% probability of having 3 children. The majority of the mothers of these girls that we work with are that statistic. And there's a profound correlation between poverty and teen pregnancy. In Colombia, 52.3% of teenage mothers are in the lowest quintiles of poverty. And those are the girls that we work with. It's set up basically depending on where you live in our city. And throughout Colombia, there's different kind of ranges, and you're labeled by like how much you pay for energy and stuff like that. So we work from girls from 0 to 3. It goes up to 6, but those are the girls that we usually work with. But most of our girls are 0 to 2. It's like we only take 3 if they really are in need. So that's kind of our reality of working with teenagers, and it's hard because they're teenagers. No offense to the teenagers in this room. I was like I was a teenager once too, and they have a baby. So it's trying to motivate them to come to the courses, to be part of the thing, because we don't we started in like giving a lot of help, and then realized, well, they'll come get like some groceries, but then they won't show up the next week for like our prenatal course. So we started putting on a system like you have to attend in order to get points, in order to receive the benefits of the program. And from there, we've actually seen a big change in the girls. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, sure.
Of course you do.
I do. It's hard and draining, and our heart dwells with them to see all the difficulties that they have to face. I would like to share a small story of one of our girls, so maybe you will get a better idea where they come from, more than numbers, because those numbers for us has faces, you know. So there's this girl whose life was marked for abandonment, but resilience and hope as well. She was raised by her grandma because her dad left her when she was a child, and her mom was trapped in a cycle of unstable relationships, so she wasn't there for her. When she was 16, she realized that she was pregnant. Well, she comes from an abusive home with lack of resources. There was often not enough for the 3 meals. She grew up hearing like, you're not good enough, you're not gonna do anything in life, like you're the worst thing that happened to my life, and all those awful things that any kid shouldn't be listened or being treated in that way. So of course she was really scared when she realized that she was pregnant, and what will be her future and the future of the baby. So through the hospital, because we have an alliance with a hospital that asked me this question, who are you? We were able to reach her and invite her to be part of El Nido, and she came and she became part of El Nido, and she found refugee, and she had a group of people who will support her and help her to navigate through the difficulties in life. She was able to have direct access to a doctor. She was able to have emotional support. Now she has her 3 meals in her place, you know, like we are able to offer her that because she was weighing 88 pounds when she came to the program. Well, she was pregnant. It was really hard to see this girl pregnant, and like she always come to a program. Like I noticed that she would eat more, but by that time we didn't know what was going on at the beginning. So we are glad we could be able to offer that. And every week we offer a quality education and enriching talks that will give them the tools that they need to face their new role as moms. She has a beautiful little girl. I'm so glad and thankful that she's healthy. And she's gonna graduate from the program this December. They start with us when they're pregnant, and we walk with them for a period of 2 years. So this December, she's gonna end her 2 years. We help her to go back to school because they will drop off school. So, and we pay for that, and we help them with money for transportation and groceries and diapers. And as you know, having a baby, you need to have a lot of expenses. So we do help with that. And I'm grateful to see that she not only find like economic support or material things, she found a family. That's what we are for her. And seeing her overcome so many challenges, even like the relationship with her mom, who is abusive to her, and like she's now in an abusive relationship. And I really hope we talk about that with her, but we can't make the decision for her. We just hope that she can get out of that relationship. Now she's living by herself, and this guy just drop off sometimes, and like, but we have seen her achieving her goals, studying, and so we're so grateful to see what hope and community can do in the life of a little girl and their generations. We believe we're not working just with one girl, we're changing generations.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what are What are some of the other things you're celebrating right now? Some of maybe the wins or the victories you've seen?
Well, in terms of the program, one of the things we're celebrating are like our results. We have some things that we've been like what we've been trying to focus and what we've been trying to do. And so you can see like 97% of our girls have no repeated pregnancies. It was like 82% of finishing their studies, and 100% are on some form of birth control. 93% were not when they first came into things. So in order to avoid a subsequent pregnancy, and with that, they're receiving education, like a good, healthy sexual education for them as well, from a doctor that we have who's a volunteer, and we have a psychologist now volunteering with us as well, that we're able to offer a small offering, but it's not much. They're volunteering. I was like, and so they have access to actually ask questions, because a lot of the time these girls will not ask a normal doctor the questions, but this doctor is teaching them, coming alongside them, praying for them, and so they feel more comfortable to actually open up and say like, well, I didn't understand when the doctor said this, or they can call and say, my baby has a fever, like what should I do? So it's been, those are things that we can celebrate. 100% of the babies have been born without complications. We're so thankful to God for that, because that is very abnormal. And 0% of the mothers have died or faced complications as well, which is also great. So we're excited about that. We're excited because we get to see like and be Jesus to these girls in some ways, like in the little ways we can. We get to plant seeds and just pray for them and hope it grows to fruition. But even this girl that Leidy was talking about, my parents come down for the 4 months. They help out in the program where they can, making snacks. And my mom one day, this girl was crying, and my mom just said, like, can I pray for you? The girl doesn't understand English, obviously, like even though we talk about English a lot. I was like, and so she was like, yeah. My mom prayed for her. She was crying, and then like, when my mom was gone, she was like, oh, when's your mom coming back? Like, when's your mom coming back? She was so special when she prayed for me. And so my mom came back this past year, saw her with her baby, and then she gave my mom like a huge hug and introduced her baby. So even something small, it just means so much. And God can do so much through like little actions if we're willing to do them. Yeah.
And one of the other things we're really excited about is like we plan, we're working towards having like a small beauty salon for them to work. We teach them some skills so they can learn how to work and make properly income. So we're working towards that. Now we have our first beauty chair. It's in our, where we say that. Right now, it's in our office. We have to do so many things, but it's a big step for us. Like, as we mentioned, we start with one girl. I never thought that El Nido would look like it looks like today, you know? So we're so grateful to see how God is being so faithful with us. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So obviously you've kind of talked a bit about some of the challenges, but what are, help us to appreciate, some of the challenges that you face, and especially so that as we're praying for you, we can be praying for these sorts of things.
Okay, I'll go. Fundraising is one, like the funds to support the project is always hard because we have to raise our own support as missionaries because we don't take a salary from the project because there's not enough money that comes in, so that all goes to the girls. So we do our own fundraising, which is why we come back every 2 years to Canada to go around to churches to find individual supporters as well to support us, as well as to support the project. So we're always on kind of double duty. Whoever has the hats in the ring doing both things. So that's always a challenge, but God has always been faithful, and that's why it's always a blessing to meet more people and have more people come alongside and become part of our project, because that's how we really feel, is like when people join with us. It's not just us, it's always God doing his project through all of us. So people help in different ways. That's one. The other challenges I would say is patience and understanding with the girls sometimes. They're teenagers.
Yeah, they're hard. I always said the gray hair that I already had is because of them. Oh man, it's just so hard, but yeah. And I think part of the limited resources that we have back at home is like because we don't have help from the government or any other entity that will just say, okay, you're doing a great job, we want to support that cause. There's a lot of corruption back at home. So the government want to make their own projects, their own things, and it's really hard to get involved with them to support these kind of causes.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. So there's no social support structures like there would be here.
Oh yeah, no.
And there's definitely no funding. And if there is funding, it always comes with strings attached. We have to like do whatever they say, but usually it's like, yeah, like sign for this amount of money. We're only going to give you this, but then you get to continue with us forever, and we get a kickback, and it goes into our pockets, and you're committing fraud, so it never comes back on us. So we just don't agree with that. And so, as of right now, we know, and like we have talked with all the main entities that should be doing this work that don't, and they know of us, and sometimes we get girls from them, but nothing else. No, that's about it.
Yeah,
so that's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to set boundaries. That's a difficult thing to do when you're so involved in the life of these girls. It's hard not to worry about it. It's hard not to be thinking what we should do when we should be resting or when we should be focusing like our family or the church, because God had amazing plans. Then now we just not just run El Nido, we're part of a new church. So it's funny. So we have to deal with all those things. That's amazing. I think part of what I am always moved by the last song that you play. It's really interesting for me. It's a song that really speaks to my soul. And I don't know why, but lately in all the churches that we have visited, that song is being played, and I was like, oh God, I know you want to say something. Like, and it just breaks, I don't know, it's something inside of me, because I believe that that's what God did. When you ask yourself, why not me? Why? When you make that question to yourself, God will do wonderful things, and He called us upon the waters. But like, we have no idea what could happen, and it's not easy. It's really hard, but I'm so grateful He is there when the waters feel like you're gonna drain, and like I'm not gonna keep going, but He will extend His hand and lift up. Yeah, that. Sorry, and just do miracles. It's a miracle for us to be here today, actually. So we're really grateful. You have been so nice with us and so welcome, and just see your heart and wanting to know what we do and feel like, we're doing well. So thank you. Mm-hmm. I want to say that. I think it's important.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I feel like we could talk all day, it's beautiful. No, it's amazing to hear about your ministry. Just the last little, with the time that we have left, I love the opportunity for us to learn from people like yourself who have gone all in your faith. You've asked God, why not me? I love that. And now you've had experience in the ministry, the ups and downs. What is maybe one lesson that sticks out for you? Maybe something recently that God's been teaching you that you could share with us. We'd love to hear from you.
There's a verse I would like to share with you guys, because it's the verse that we kind of founded the project upon. And then, I'll answer that, because it says and it's from Isaiah 61, 1-4. And it says, "The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to those who are bound, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, to grant to those who mourn in Zion, to give them a beautiful headdress instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the garment of praise instead of a faint spirit, that they may be called oaks of righteousness, the the planting of the Lord, that he may be glorified. They shall build up the ancient ruins. They shall raise up the former devastations. They shall repair the ruined cities, the devastation of many generations. These are also the words that Jesus read in Luke 4, like when he first stood up and started his ministry. And it's something that I think that it's really reverberated with us because we're called to really incarnate these words. We're called to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Something that we've been learning that we could share with you and encourage you is the same thing, is to do that. And I'm sure you are doing that in your community. Just from meeting some of you, I know you're doing that in community, just from seeing different things, from talking to Jason. But we can always look for different ways. And I think this idea of, for us, really rebuilding the ruins was a big thing for our city, which was left in ruins from an earthquake in 99. But then also these lives that are in ruins that Jesus can build. And we say we can't talk about hope without talking about Jesus. When people ask about our program, like, well, do you make them become Christians? No, we don't. We do Alpha Youth, we do things with them, we talk about Jesus, but we can't talk about hope without talking about Jesus. It's just part of us. And we love these girls regardless. And I think that's important. And I would encourage, I guess it's something that we've learned, is that God is faithful. Even when you have low energy, even when there's a crisis, is that God is always faithful, and he will send things to you at the moment you need to encourage you a lot of the time. And there's times of suffering, but there's also times of great joy. And I think that's what we've found, the difference between happiness and joy, and something that's been reiterated to us is joy can still be found in the moments where you're suffering, whereas happiness can't. And so it's just something different. And it's something that brings us into the suffering with these girls, putting ourselves in their shoes, but also being like, you know what? There's some things that we can understand because we haven't lived that. Some things we can, some things we can't. But at the same time, we love you, but there is someone that does understand, and that's Jesus. Because he suffered. He suffered way more, and he is the one that will understand you, and you have access to him. So I think like that's, I guess if we were to say like something that we've learned, that's something we've been keep learning. It's not about us. It's really not about us. It's about him. And we're just called to just be hands and feet of Jesus and to love these people and to bring them to him. So I think sometimes like, well, like, yes, no, we haven't seen all our girls, say the prayer and then they're in our church. No, we haven't seen that. But maybe someone else will see that down the road. We're just faithful in what we're called to do, and we make sure that we're listening to God's voice and being moved by the Spirit. And I would encourage you guys to do the same. Listen to that voice, because I listened years ago. It changed my life. We listened together. It changed my life. And yeah, it's just the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I said something?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Just don't know. I think we passed the time. Sorry.
That's okay.
I think another thing I would like to add is to dream. Like, it's something I've been learning with God, is be a dreamer as well. Dream with God. Ask God to bring to you his dreams. And it's beautiful to see the amazing things and unbelievable things he will bring to your life. Like, I remember we were working in the hospital, and then we started like, oh, we need a place. And I was like, no, that's so hard. How are we going to pay a place? Like, that's crazy. And my husband like, no, we have saved some money. We can do it. So we found a new place. And then it was small. So we were like, oh, now we need something bigger. So we find something bigger, because we dream and we pray for that, and God was faithful with us. And then we were walking that place. I remember so well. I said like, oh, it's a big place. That's great. So maybe we are going to be able to work with more girls. And I said like, oh, but we kind of want not to have more girls, because this is not healthy. Like, we shouldn't have any teenager girls that are pregnant. But then he brought a church out of nowhere. being part of a community, it's healthy. It helps you heal. It helps you grow. It helps you to achieve some things. And I'm so grateful for that. We have learned that how important it's a community. It's been really important to us. We just have 2 communities here in London who support us, small churches back at home in London. And it's great. It's great to hear those prayers for us, and that's what I think keep us, afloat. Yeah. So I think that's what I want to add.
Yeah, that's great. And you're referring to Reunion, the church plant that you were both a part of, and wow, yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy. Like, we never thought we would be planting a church.
Yeah, that's a whole other long story, which we would have liked to weave in, but it doesn't all fit at the same time.
Talk about it over lunch.
Yeah, if you have questions, please come. We'll fill in the gaps.
Yeah, beautiful. So just to let you know, in terms of how we can support them, there are a couple that we've started supporting from our missions giving, and we want to continue to do that. But there's also an opportunity for anyone to support them, and what you can do is you can go to the Be in Christ website, so the beinchrist.ca, and you'll click on global. We've got a little picture there, BICCanadaglobal.com, and you'll see them. You scroll down and you'll find El Nido. I probably butchered that, the pronunciation.
No, you
did it right.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you were great.
Yeah,
El Nido.
Good Spanish.
There we go, yeah. And so you can, there's a button that says donate now, so it's perfect because it's right through the BIC. They don't actually take off, we were just talking about that the other day, through BIC, they don't take off any percentage of the giving. It goes, all of the money that you give goes directly to the mission. So check that out, and they'll be around for lunch afterwards to ask any more questions that you want to learn. I'd love to hear, love hearing from you guys. Just is there any last words? Yeah, go for it.
We brought some coffee candies for you. So there's candies on the dessert table, I think. Some of them are hard, some of them are caramels. They're delicious. They're from Colombia. And also we'll have some bookmarks for you guys if you want to take it, how to pray for us, like kind of a prayer plan as well. So yeah.
Perfect. That's great.